If you burn wood to keep your family warm, the single most dangerous thing in your house is not the wolf at the tree line. It is the log you're about to throw on the fire. There's a picture more than a century old of 3 stumps burning in a foot of snow outside a cabin door. A man with a long gray beard and a fur hat is pointing at the middle one, and the smoke coming off it is black. Not gray. Black. He is not pointing because it is pretty. He is pointing because he has just realized what he threw on that fire, and he is telling the man beside him, "Do not stand downwind of that one." That is the camping myth that killed more frontier men than wolves ever did. Not the beast in the dark, the fire between their own 2 hands. The idea that if it is wood, it burns. And if it burns, it is safe. Men froze because they threw the wrong log on, breathed the wrong smoke for 2 nights, and never made it through the 3rd. The thing that killed them has a name. Fuel judgment. Learning to read a piece of wood before you burn it. The way your great-grandfather could read it standing at the wood pile in the dark. By the time we are done, you'll be able to walk out to any pile of wood in this country and know in about 10 seconds whether it is going to warm your family or poison them. You'll know which pieces to split, which pieces to throw in the burn barrel outside, and which pieces to bury. That is a sovereign skill. Nobody bills you for it. Nobody can take it back. Before we go on, there's something coming for this country, and the news won't say a word about it till it's already on your doorstep. It comes down to one number. 3 days. That's what the stores hold for you. Your grandfather's pantry held a winter, and the difference was never money. It was knowing. 904 pages of that knowing in one book. Water, fire, curing, canning, the plants that heal and the ones that kill. All right, back to it. There are 7 pieces to reading wood, right? 6 of them your grandfather could have taught you on a Sunday afternoon. The 7th, the one that actually kept him alive on the bad nights, is the one nobody teaches anymore. And it is the one we build to. I am a 7th generation on this ridge. My family has held this stretch of mountain since the 1790s, and I have never lived off it a day. Everything you are about to hear, my grandfather Eli copied into a leather journal before he died. And he made me swear the old ways would not die with me. This is me keeping my word. None of this got forgotten by accident. Friend, the comfort and safety trade, the appliance men, the chimney men, the detector men, they built a whole industry on top of you, not knowing what your granddad knew for free. I will name them properly in a minute. By the time we are done here, you will look at a piece of wood the way he did. You will know the 6 kinds that will kill you slow and the 1 kind that will kill you fast. You will know how to tell dry from green with your bare hand. You will know the smell that says, "Walk out of the room right now and open the door." And you will know the 1 signal, the 7th piece, that told him the fire had turned on him. That is the promise. Tap subscribe before we get into it. Not for me, because we are pulling 1 buried skill back into daylight a week now. And you will want the next one. They would rather you never relearned. There are 7 pieces to reading wood. 7. Most folks who burn wood today miss 3 of them and do not know it. We will go in order. Condition first. Is it fit to burn at all? Moisture second. Is it dry enough? Species third. Is it one of the poisonous ones your grandmother would have slapped your wrist for touching? Then the treated stuff. Then the driftwood. Then the burn itself. And then the 7th piece. The one the comfort trade needed you to forget the most because it is the piece that catches the fire before it catches you. So, the question is not what your granddad knew that you do not. Neighbor, it is who profited when you stopped knowing it and how you take it back. The first piece is condition. Before species, before dryness, before anything else. Is this piece of wood even fit to burn in a place where people breathe? Your great-grandfather stood at his woodpile the way a butcher stands overside of beef. He would pick a piece up. He would weigh it in one hand. He would smell it. And half the time he would toss it back on the far end of the pile and reach for another one. He was not being fussy. He was reading it. Here is how you do it today. You pick the piece up. 3 tests in this order. Weight first. A fit piece of hardwood feels heavier than it looks. A rotten piece feels heavier than it should because it is holding water in dead fiber. Surface second. You look for punky, spongy patches, dark streaks of mold, white powdery bloom, black fuzzy patches, bark that peels off in wet sheets. Smell. Third. You bring it to your face. A good piece of seasoned wood smells like wood. Nothing else. A bad piece smells sour or musty or sharp like a wet basement. If any one of those 3 tests fails, that piece does not go in the house. Wait. Look. Smell. Every piece. Every time. Now, the record. The University of Arkansas Extension put it plain in their own literature. Wood smoke carries particulate matter. Soot, black carbon, potentially carcinogenic compounds, nitrogen oxides, and carbon monoxide. Every one of those goes up harder when the wood is wrong. That is the modern side confirming what the old side already knew. And here is the honest history of how this skill got taken from you, friend, because I owe you the whole picture. Nobody banned wood reading. There was no decree. No senator stood up and outlawed your grandmother's judgment at the woodshed. What happened was slower and cleaner than that. Through the 20th century, the country got fitted with cheap, standardized furnaces, then oil, then gas, then electric baseboard. Households stopped needing to read wood because they stopped burning wood. The knowledge did not die in a courthouse. It died in a warehouse full of new appliances, and it died in a home economics curriculum that quietly stopped teaching it. When wood burning came back as a hobby, the skill was not there to come back with it, and a whole new trade grew up, selling you the safety you used to carry in your own head. An old-timer will tell you the failure mode here is not the obvious rotten piece. It is the piece that looks dry on the outside and holds mold in the core. Split it open before you trust it. If you see black fuzz on the split face, that piece burns outside in a burn pile downwind, or it does not burn at all, do this today. Walk out to your wood pile. Pick up 10 pieces. Wait. Look. Smell one at a time. Split the 2 that feel wrong. You will find at least one that would have smoked your family out if you had trusted it in the stove tonight. That is condition. Now, even if the pieces fit, if it is still holding water, it will still poison your air, which is the next piece. And it is the one 9 out of 10 people botch. Piece number 2 is moisture. This is the gate. Because a piece can pass condition, clean, sound, no mold, and still be too wet to burn safe. Your grandfather could feel it. He would knot 2 pieces together and listen. A dry piece rings hollow like a dropped bat. A wet piece thuds dead like a bag of grain. Here is the method. 3 test again. Sound. Knock 2 split pieces together at the ends. Dry rings. Wet thuds. Look. The ends of a seasoned split are checked. Cracked. Radiating out from the center like a spoked wheel. A green split shows a clean face with no cracks. Feel? Put your palm flat on the split face and hold it there 10 seconds. A dry piece feels dry. A green piece feels cool because water is still evaporating out of it under your hand. Rule of thumb your grandfather lived by. You split it. You stack it off the ground with air moving through. You cover the top and leave the sides open. And you let it sit. Hardwood. 1 full summer minimum. 2 summers is better.
Softwood.
1 summer is usually enough. If you did not split it last spring, it is not ready this fall. That is the honest answer. Split. Stack. Wait. 2 summers if you can spare them. The modern extension guidance confirms the old rule from the other direction. Burning wet wood is what drives most of the health hazard in wood smoke. The water in the wood has to boil off before the wood can burn hot enough to combust cleanly. Every gallon of water inside that log steals heat from your fire and puts smoke in your lungs. That is not folklore. That is physics that the university folks put in writing. The failure mode here is the piece you bought 2 weeks ago at the gas station in a shrink-wrap bundle labeled seasoned. Half the time, it is not. Test it yourself before you trust the label. And here is the honest word about who profited when you forgot this. Not a conspiracy. Neighbor. Just how markets work. The comfort and safety trade does not need you scared. It just needs you dependent. Sell the appliance. Sell the fuel. Sell the inspection. Sell the detector. There was never money in you knowing how to read a piece of wood, and a great deal of money in you paying someone else to worry about it for you. The knowledge died because it could not be sold. Do this today. Buy a moisture meter for $20. Or use the knock and check the NS test for free. Test 5 pieces of what you are about to burn. If any read over 20% moisture, they wait another season. Next. Even a dry, sound piece can kill you if it came from the wrong tree. Which brings us to the ones that will hurt you fastest. Piece 3.
Species.
This is the one the frontiermen learned wrong at the cost of their lives. The idea in the back of every camper's mind. If it is a tree and it is dead and it is dry, then it burns clean. That is the myth. That is the one that killed them. Because some trees carry poison in the wood itself, and the fire does not burn it out. The fire lofts it up into the air you are breathing. Here's what your grandmother would have slapped your wrist for even carrying near the woodshed. Do not burn poison ivy, poison oak, or poison sumac ever. The oil in the plant, urushior, rides the smoke straight into your lungs and your eyes. Do not burn oleander. Every part of that plant, including the dead wood, contains cardiac glycosides. Heart poison. Do not burn manchineel. That is a coastal Florida and Caribbean tree, and its sap carries forbyl esters that will burn skin and airways. Do not burn you. Do not burn poison wood, sometimes called hogwood, out of the Florida hammocks. The rule underneath the list is simpler than the list. If the living plant is known to be poison, the dead wood is still poisoned, and the smoke is worse. Poison standing up, poison lying down, poison in the smoke. The Centers for Disease Control has been on record for years that burning poison ivy, oak, and sumac releases the irritant oil into the smoke and can cause serious respiratory problems. That is not a mountain rumor. That is the Federal Public Health Agency confirming, in plain language, exactly what your great-grandmother told your grandfather when she caught him picking up the wrong vine at the woodpile. She was right in 1932. She was right in 1972. And the record still says she is right now. Failure mode. The vine on the log. Poison ivy climbs. It grows thick. Hairy. Ropey vines up the trunks of dead trees. When you drag the tree out of the woods, the vine comes with it, and you do not notice because the vine looks like part of the log. I did this myself the first winter Eli let me lay in the fall wood on my own. I was 14. I hauled in an oak with a wrist-thick vine on it, and by the time he saw the vine, I had 2 pieces of it in the stove. He put the fire out with a bucket of dirt and made me stand in the yard for an hour. First hide I ever tanned. The dog would not chew it, and the first cord I ever laid in, half of it went right back out. He did not yell. He just said, "Look at the log." Boy, not the wood. Do this today. Walk every log you plan to burn. Look for hairy, ropey vines. Strip them off with a hatchet. If you cannot strip the vine clean without leaving hair on the bark, that log burns outside or not at all. Next, poison species you can see. What about the poison you cannot? Piece 4. This one your grandfather did not have to worry about because it did not exist yet. And that is exactly why it is dangerous now. Nobody taught you to spot it. Treated wood, engineered wood, pallet wood, painted wood, anything the modern world glued, pressure treated, stained, sealed, or manufactured. Every piece of it looks like wood. None of it is wood in the sense your grandfather meant. Here is the reject pile. Spoken plain, pressure-treated lumber. The greenish or brownish stuff that comes off deck jobs and fence post. It is soaked with copper compounds and in older stock, arsenic. Do not burn it. Plywood, particle board, chipboard, oriented strand board, anything held together with glue. The glue is for baste, and when you burn it, you are breathing formaldehyde. Painted wood. The paint carries lead in older stock and other compounds in newer, stained or sealed wood. Same reason. Pallet wood. Some pallets are heat treated and fine. Some are chemically fumigated and you cannot tell by looking. So, the honest rule is, you do not burn pallets in a house. Railroad ties, soaked in creosote. Do not burn ever. Indoors or out. The visual tells green or brown tint on cut ends means pressure treatment. Visible glue lines mean engineered. Any paint, any stain, any varnish, any factory smooth surface. Reject if the piece looks like it came out of a building. Not out of the woods. It does not go in the stove. Green tint, glue line, paint, factory smooth, out. The extension guidance is direct on this. Pressure-treated wood, plywood, particle board, chipboard, wood pallets, any wood with glue, none of it belongs in a household fire. Not because tradition says so, because the compounds released when those materials burn are documented indoor air hazards. This is the modern side confirming in institutional writing what the old side would have settled by common sense. Do not burn what a factory built. Failure mode. The neighbor's scrap pile. Free wood hauled off a construction site dumped by the driveway. You take it. You stack it. You burn it in the shoulder season, and you never quite feel right for a week and cannot figure out why. That is the modern failure mode your grandfather did not have. Do this today. If any wood in your pile came from a building instead of a tree, move it out. Put it in the trash, not the stove. Free does not mean fuel. Pesser and break. Everything so far. Condition. Moisture. Poison species. Treated wood. Your great-grandmother could have walked you through in one afternoon at the woodshed. What is coming next is the piece that ate the coastal families alive. And after that, the peace, the comfort and safety trade needs you to forget the hardest. That is the one that turned this whole thing from a woodpile lesson into a survival lesson. Piece 5. Driftwood. Every coastal camper, every beach cabin, every lakeside stove has had the same thought. Free wood, already dry, right there on the sand. Burn it. Nothing on that beach looks dangerous. And that is the trap. Because driftwood is one of the worst fuels you can put in an indoor fire. Here is what is actually in that log. Salt. Weeks or months or years soaked in seawater. And the salt has worked its way deep into the fiber. When salt-saturated wood burns hot, the chlorine in the salt gets released as gas. Hydrogen chloride, chlorine compound. And those two gases do two bad things. They damage your lungs and they eat your stove and your chimney from the inside. The corrosion in a coastal stovepipe that has been fed driftwood for a season looks like acid damage because that is what it is.
Rule.
Driftwood is a beach bonfire fuel if it is a fuel at all. Outdoors. Downwind. Brief. It is not an indoor fuel. Not in the fireplace. Not in the wood stove. Not in the camp stove inside the tent. Outdoors only. Downwind. Never in the house. The published guidance list driftwood plainly among woods never to burn indoors. Not because the wood is rotten, because the ocean got into it. The old coastal folks knew this in a rougher form. They would tell you driftwood ate the flu. They did not need the chemistry to know the outcome. The modern extension writing tells you why. Failure mode. The split you cannot tell from regular hardwood. Once driftwood has been ashore a summer and dried out, it can look almost normal. The tell is weight. The tell is the grayish, weathered surface. And the tell is a faint saltiness if you touch your tongue to the split face, which most folks do not want to do and do not have to. If in doubt on a beach house pile, burn outdoors or not at all.
Do this today.
If you keep a cabin, camp, or fire pit within a mile of any salt water, sort your pile. Anything with the weathered driftwood look goes to the outdoor pile. Anything you cut yourself from an inland tree stays inside. Next, even with the right wood. Dry.
Sound.
Non-toxic. Untreated. Inland. You can still poison a room, because it is not only what you burn, it is how it burns. P6. The burn itself. You have done every piece right up to here. Good wood. Dry. Untreated. Non-toxic. Inland. And the fire in front of you can still be the one that kills your family, 'cause the fire is a live thing, and you have to read it the way your grandfather read the sky before storm. Here's the reading. 3 Qs. Smoke color. Flame character. Draft. Smoke color first. A clean fire in a well-drafting stove or fireplace, after the first 10 minutes of startup, should produce almost no visible smoke coming out of the chimney. What you see should be a thin heat shimmer, and maybe a faint whitish trail. Gray smoke means the fire's running cool. Black smoke means the fire's choking. Either the wood is wrong, the wood is wet, or the air supply is starved. Flame character second. A good hardwood burn shows tall, steady, orange-yellow flames with blue at the base.
Lazy.
Dark red flames that never brighten mean the fire is starving for air, or the wood is too wet. Flames that streak black mean the wood is wrong. Draft. Third, open the door of the stove or the damper. You should feel air pulling in, not smoke pushing out. If smoke rolls into the room when you open the door, the chimney is not drafting, and every minute the fire runs. That draft is going somewhere. If it is not going up, it is going into you. Black smoke. Lazy flame. Smoke rolling out. Anyone? Stop! The extension research names the pollutants that ride bad combustion. Particulate matter. Soot. Black carbon. Carcinogen. Nitrogen oxides. And carbon monoxide. The colder and dirtier the burn, the more of every one of those you make. A hot, clean, well-drafted fire produces a fraction of what a smoldering, starved fire does. That is the science backing what any old-timer could tell you from 30 F away by looking at the chimney. I will say the honest thing here. Friend, I am not your fire marshal, and depending on your county, and your stove, and your chimney, the details vary. What I am giving you is the pattern any competent wood burner learned before there were manuals for it. If your appliance came with instructions, follow those. 2. This is not either. Failure mode. The close down overnight burn. You load the stove full at bedtime and choke the air back to make it last till morning. That is the classic recipe for creosote on the flue and carbon monoxide in the room. If you must bank overnight, bank hot and small, not cold and full. Do this today. Next time you light a fire, walk outside after 10 minutes and look at your own chimney. If the smoke is black or gray and thick, come back in and fix it. More dry wood, more air, less choke. Next. And this is the piece the whole video builds to, because everything so far you can see with your eyes. The last piece is the one that starts inside your own head, and by the time you notice it, the fire's been working on you for an hour. Piece 7. This is the piece the roadmap has been walking you toward. Your grandfather called it plain as anything. Listening to your head. The rule is this. The first detector in the house is you, before the beeper on the wall goes off, before the smoke gets thick enough to see. Your body knows something is wrong, and it tells you in one specific way, and if you ignore it, you do not get a second warning. Here is the rule in 3 lines. 1. Headache at the hearth is not normal. If you sit down by your fire on a cold night, and inside 20 minutes a dull ache builds up behind your eyes or across your temples, that is not the heat. That is the air. Stand up. Walk to the door. Open it. 2. Dizziness or a swimming feeling when you stand up from the chair by the fire is not just tiredness. That is your blood telling you it is not getting oxygen right. Get out of the room! Not the far side of the room, the outside of the house in the cold air, and stay there. 3.
Nausea.
Confusion or drowsiness that came on since you lit the stove is the 3rd stage. If any 2 people in the room are feeling it. The fire is out, the doors are open, and everybody is outside in that order.
This is not a maybe.
This is the rule. Headaches, dizziness, out. Then fix the fire. The University of Arkansas Extension backs every word of that. They recommend a carbon monoxide detector near sleeping areas and annual chimney inspection precisely because this hazard is real and the symptoms come on before the detector does. If the detector is even installed, that is the modern authority confirming what the old rule already said. Eli wrote about this in the winter of 1973 right after he lost a neighbor to a bad flu. 2 lines in his hand in that journal. Headache at the hearth is the first bell. If you do not answer the first bell, the second bell rings for somebody else. He underlined it twice. I know because I copied the page. Here is the failure mode. The comfort and safety trade sold you a detector on the wall and told you that was the whole answer. It is not. A detector is a backstop. It goes off after a certain concentration of carbon monoxide has been in the air long enough to trip it. Your headache goes off first. Fine. Believe the marketing if you want. Or you can put the detector on the wall. Please do. And also keep the first detector, the one in your own skull, tuned in. If the machine is already on your ceiling, friend, that is not on you. They are good at selling. Keep it. Add the old rule to it. Do this today, tonight, when you light your fire. Notice how you feel at 15 minutes and again at 30, if anything is off. You now know what it means and what to do. Which brings us to the part I said we would build to, because now you have all 7 pieces. And the one piece of the 7 that ties the whole thing together, the piece that makes this a survival skill and not a hobby, is the one we have not quite named yet. Go back to the man in the fur hat pointing at the middle stump. He knew exactly which stump was the killer. He had missed a tell in the dark that morning, and when he saw the smoke go black, he knew what he had done. That is the whole skill in one gesture. Reading it before and reading it after, and being willing to walk away from your own mistake the second the smoke tells you, here is what you now own.
You walk to the wood pile.
You pick up the piece. You weigh it. You look it over for mold and vine and paint and glue. You smell it. You knock it against another to hear it ring. You check the end for cracks. If all of that passes condition moisture, no poison species, no treated stock, no driftwood, the piece goes in the box.
You light the fire.
You watch the smoke off your own chimney for 10 minutes. If it stays black or gray or thick, you fix it before you sit down. And then this is the 7th piece, the buried heart, the one, the whole road map pointed at. You keep listening to your head, because the fire is a live thing and your body is the first detector in the house. And no appliance and no service and no product ever sold has replaced the man or woman who knows when to walk to the door and open it. That is the skill. 7 pieces. Every piece checkable. Every piece yours. The comfort and safety trade needed you to forget the 7th piece more than any of the others, because everything else they can sell you a substitute for. The 7th piece they cannot. That is why it went first. This was never just about firewood. Friend, it was about the difference between a man who owns his own hearth and a man who rents his safety by the month. Your great-grandfather did not have a detector on the wall because he was the detector. That is not nostalgia. That is sovereignty. When you can read your own fuel and read your own smoke and read your own body, you do not need permission from anybody to keep your family warm through a hard winter. That is what got taken from you. That is what you just took back. You do not have to master all 7 pieces this week.
Do one.
This Saturday. Walk out to your woodpile and run the 3 condition test on every piece. Wait. Look.
Smell.
That is the whole first step. Sort what fails into a pile that does not go in the house. You will have done more than most people who own a stove in this country. Your granddad knew all of this. Somebody just did not get the chance to pass it down to you. That is what I was here for. And I ran the 7-piece check on my own pile this fall. Found 3 I would have burned 5 years ago. Did not regret an hour of the sort. Tell me down below, did your grandparents keep a wood pile? Did they teach you to read a log before you burned it? Or did that piece not make it to you? Either. The skill that gets the most stories in the comments is the one I go deep on next. A skill that kept families warm and breathing for 300 years. Almost gone. Now you are one of the keepers. Next time, the $2 pantry skill that put a whole industry out of business. And the year they made sure you would forget it was ever there.
Keep the old ways.
They kept. If this story changed the way you look at the logs in your woodpile, please subscribe and like the channel. We are unearthing the history they tried to bury. Plant the future. The next treasure will be open soon.